Good evening, I'm Todd Kuntz. Welcome to this special edition of Local News 8 at 6. Jury selection is underway for the Chad Daybell murder trial. We have team coverage for you tonight. Linda Larson is here with me in the studio with exclusive interviews. Savannah Henkert is in Boise with what happened outside the Ada County courtroom today. But first, our Seth Ratliff has been following the jury selection all day long. He joins us now in the studio with more. Seth.
Todd, brutal honesty. That's what the state told potential jury members they expect from them as they head into this case. They say this is essential to ensure the state and the defendant get a fair trial.
In this courtroom, the court will give you the law that applies in this case. And you may like that, you may not like that law. But for fairness to this defendant and for fairness to the people of Idaho, we all have to agree follow that law.
Much of Monday's questioning centered around whether or not the members of the jury pool were capable of being unbiased and impartial, considering the media coverage of the case and that the death penalty is still on the table.
If you were to hear testimony that related to the death of young children, would that cause you to react in a way that would say, there are children involved here? It has to be the death.
No, honestly, age doesn't. The death of anybody is sad.
Several members of the jury pool said they were already under the impression that the defendant was at least compliant in the murders, if not fully guilty. One potential juror said he believed that Chad Daybell was a man of weak character.
I would have to hear the instructions from the court to find guilt in the charges.
Okay, but at this point, your position is the weak character and guilty, but I'm going to listen to the instructions and I'm going to look at all the evidence. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Now, the goals of these proceedings is to pick 12 jurors and 6 alternates who can fairly try the case. In last year's Lori Vallow Daybell case, this process of weeding down and selecting the jury took around 4 days, so it could be a while before the trial moves forward. Reporting in the studio, I'm Seth Ratliff.
Let's take a look at the turn of events that led us to the arrest of Chad and Lori Vallow. Starting in July of 2019, Lori's fourth husband was shot and killed by Lori's brother, Alex Cox. Lori then moves to Rexburg. We move to August of 2019. JJ talks to his grandparents for the last time. In fact, it was September 23rd that the children were last seen in Island Park. In October, Chad's former wife, Tammy Daybell, dies. November, Chad and Lori get married. The family calls authorities to do a welfare check on JJ, and Lori tells police that JJ was fine with relatives in Arizona. Soon after, neighbors see the couple packing up their things and leave town. One day before Thanksgiving, police raid Lori's townhome. Now, to December of 2019, Tammy's body is exhumed in Utah, and Alex Cox dies of a suspicious cause. To January, the FBI raids Chad's home in Fremont County. February 20th, Lori was arrested by Kauai Police Department. March 6th, 2020, Lori makes her first court appearance in Idaho. Then, June 9th of 2020, JJ and Tylee's remains are found on Chad Daybell's property, and Chad is arrested. Media from all over the nation then make their way to Rexburg to cover this tragedy. Linda?
Todd, that media frenzy took the city of Rexburg by storm. National and local media drawing down upon the courthouse, trying to learn more about a case that sounded like it came from a horror film. I went back to Rexburg last week, 4 years later, to see how the community is dealing with it. And what we found was a community not wanting to speak and ready to move on. Here's what it looked like now and then. We start with our coverage from 4 years ago.
For months, the whole world has been watching. Where are the two Rexburg children? Where are JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan? Tonight, police may be closer to some answers.
A search warrant was served this morning at Chad Daybell's house.
Detectives and investigators have recovered what's believed to be human remains.
Finding the human remains, I don't believe that they're alive anymore.
A small, close-knit community. Hardworking, loving, God-fearing people. dealing with the unthinkable.
I think shock that anything like that could happen here.
Chad Daybell's first wife, Tammy, dying in her home under suspicious circumstances. Her body was exhumed later, and an autopsy showing she had been asphyxiated. And then, months later, 2 beautiful children murdered, their bodies buried in the backyard of one of their own.
Hoping that they can find the evidence that they need to make sure that the justice is served.
We went to Rexburg to talk to the people about how they're dealing with the tragedy 4 years later and how they feel now it's finally coming to an end.
Oh, I hope that their families, that JJ and Kylie, I hope their family can ever find peace with all of this. I don't know that you could, but some kind of peace.
It's a peace that the community is hoping to find as well.
But you move on and you forget, but where the children were buried is a very busy traveled road, and it happens to be somewhere where we travel. We have friends that live on that road, you know.
What do you think every time you drive past?
To know how they found the bodies out there and what the bodies' conditions were, and you just like, I don't know, you just like, I can't wrap my head around it, how anybody does that.
Sherry lived in the same townhouses where Lori and Alex lived when JJ and Tylee disappeared, a fact that haunts her to this day.
You know, I don't know where the children were killed at, if it was there, somewhere else, but you know, it was very kind of like, ugh, creepy.
For the last several years, the community has been dealing with the horrific events that threw them into the national spotlight.
I mean, the day that they found the bodies, we were streaming it on at work, and just like, because it's right down the road from one of my coworkers, and
What was that like? Tell me about that.
that was like insane. She's calling her family, you know, like, oh my gosh, do not go out of the house.
From the moment JJ and Tylee were found, the community showing their love and doing whatever they could to help ease the pain.
We heard that Kylie's color was purple and that JJ's was blue, so that's why we chose purple.
For the most part, people will be glad that it's over and that they can, you know, I don't know if you move on from it, because it's always going to be there.
Sherry told me that she is planning on watching the trial. She hopes that the outcome will bring at least some closure to a chapter in their history that they wish had never been written. 4 years later, local News 8 also went back to Chad Daybell's house. We asked neighbors if they wanted to speak. However, nobody was willing to go on camera. The field where JJ and Tylee's bodies were found is now overgrown. The home is now owned by Daybell's attorney, John Pryor, to pay for his attorney fees. When we were filming, someone inside the home started filming our news crew. Sources tell us that more than one of Chad Daybell's children continue to live in the home.
As we told you, neighbors in the area would not talk to us on camera. However, in court, Chad Daybell's neighbors shared their experience living next door to him and his late wife, Tammy Daybell. Local News 8's Kaylee Galaviz was there as they testified.
Hearing from the neighbors in the case gave a major insight into who Chad and Tammy Daybell were and what their marriage had become. Alice and Todd Gilbert shared Tammy was healthy leading up to her death, but saw her and Chad growing distant. They were there the morning Tammy was found dead. In separate testimonies during Lori Vallow Daybell's trial, they both described Chad as emotionless that morning. Todd said, quote, "He seemed like he was businesslike, more so than someone who just lost his wife." Tammy's funeral was only 3 days after her death. Alice got very emotional as she was testifying about the funeral. Then 3 days after Tammy's funeral, the Gilberts say Chad was already talking about his new girlfriend, Lori Vallow, and had plans to marry her. When they met Lori, Todd testified they were, quote, acting like a couple of teenagers first in love. After JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan were reported missing, Alice said she had questioned Chad. She once again got emotional during the trial and stated she knew something was wrong with Tylee when Chad, quote, used the past tense when talking about her. You could almost see and hear the disappointment and embarrassment while Todd and Alice testified. It was clear they really cared about this family, so it was so upsetting to hear how this affected them too. Reporting in studio, Kaylee Galaviz.
All right, thanks for that, Kaylee. Now, Lori Daybell was convicted of murdering JJ and Tylee in July. In court, she spoke out for the first time. It was bizarre, rambling, and disturbing.
Jesus Christ knows that no one was murdered in this case. Accidental deaths happen. My children are happy. He put his arm around me and he said to me, "You didn't do anything wrong, Mom." Tylee came to me and she said to me, "Stop worrying, Mom. We are fine."
However, the judge was having none of it. The judge said the crime scene was so horrific that they are images that he will never be able to get out of his mind. In closing, he called her a danger to society.
You chose the most evil and destructive path possible. You justified all of this by going down a bizarre religious rabbit hole, and clearly you are still down there.
Lori Daybell appeared in a Maricopa County courtroom back in February for a scheduled conference hearing. You can see her smiling as she walks into the courtroom. She's facing 2 counts of conspiracy to commit murder in relation to her 4th husband, Charles Vallow, and former nephew-in-law, Brandon Bordeaux. She has pled not guilty. Her Arizona trial is expected to begin in August.
The entire case began with Kay and Larry Woodcock, the grandparents of JJ Vallow, asking the question, where are the children? The Woodcocks have been the driving force behind the investigation. We talked to the Woodcocks as they prepared for Chad Daybell's trial. Linda, you had the exclusive interview, only on 8.
That's right, Todd. The Woodcocks have been an amazing example of strength as they have gone through all of this horrible ordeal, graciously granting interviews and talking openly with the media. They have been to all of the hearings, arraignments, and trials to find justice for JJ and Tylee.
I'm not going to quit. I'm going to be there to support the prosecutors. I'm going to be there to appreciate the defense and hope they can do a just defense. But as I said, how do you defend the indefensible?
But not quitting has come with a price. The trial's taking a huge toll on Kay and Larry.
It's been a nightmare for Kay. She's had a lot of issues with this, and to be able to have your friends and your family supporting you through a tragedy like this, I couldn't do it without it. Kay couldn't do it without it.
Their journey to try and find the missing children turning to tragedy when their bodies were discovered buried in Chad Daybell's backyard.
I'm not going to hurt him, but I wish that he gets all he deserves.
And what do you feel like that should be?
I have, in the last 5 years, I really have come to the realization that there are much worse things than being put to death.
The loss of their sweet grandson almost more than they can take. They talked about the special bond that they shared with JJ and the way he would run to Pawpaw when he picked JJ up from school.
His daddy or Lori would come with us, and he would just run right past them and jump in our arms. And then the first thing he would say is Pawpaw, 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 I love you. And we lost this. We lost that for no reason.
Larry says the memories of love and happiness that JJ filled their lives with will never die. But their hearts ache for a lifetime of love that they won't get to have with their beautiful little man.
That's what a pawpaw's is. That's what a pawpaw's life should be. Not this. For what? For what, Lord? For what, Chad?
Larry says JJ was someone special who would have grown up to be a great man.
What you think JJ would be like today? What do you think he would be?
He would be the most fun, because the year or so prior to him being murdered, he was developing his own sense of humor. And it was a dry sense of humor. And I love it. And he's so quick at comebacks. I would imagine that he would be a scholar. I would imagine him being a funny person. There's no doubt he'd be an intellect, and he'd be an amazing young man.
Thank you for watching Local News 8. Your local news is now available on any of these streaming services and devices.
Hey, it's Allie at Rugrat Flooring. Shane and Dax just finished installing this very carpet. It's my favorite fiber that I've been telling you about, Smart Strand. It's durable, cleans well, super soft, and I love the texture. We sell it at Rugrat. Our friends send friends and smiles are free.
It's an RV triple play. 3 2024s at the same price, your choice. $14,995 or $175 a month. Nothing down. Choose the Forest River Wolf Den 16 EV, the Cruiser RV 17 BH Avenue, or the Heartland Prowler 17 BHX.
Idaho's low price leader is Paris RV.
It's tax season, and those returns should be hitting the bank account soon. Invest that tax return in yourself with a targeted fat removal procedure at Bell Medical. We can gently remove that stubborn fat with guaranteed results. Spend that tax return on a mommy makeover, a dad bod makeover, or even a Bell Sculpt 360 procedure. You spend so much time and energy taking care of everyone around you. Spend some time taking care of yourself this tax season. Treat yourself and schedule a free consultation at bellmedical.com.
To everyone who enjoys a feel-good meal, we're crafting one for you, Wisconsin style.
We're talking handcrafted, cooked to order,
scoop to perfection goodness.
More like greatness.
A snuggle up in the booth, share a bite kind of meal.
A fill you up, heart and soul kind of meal.
Come treat someone you love to a meal they're sure to love.
One always served with a smile.
That comes from the heart.
From Wisconsin with love.
Welcome to Delicious!
Can you hear certain tones as clear as a bell and other tones you struggle with? This is a common challenge that we see every day here at Hearing Connection. It just might mean you're not hearing certain frequency tones as well as you did when you were in your 20s. This is one of the sure signs that people begin to recognize, signifying that it's time to get your hearing evaluated. At Hearing Connection, we offer a free comprehensive evaluation to help you find answers to why you are not hearing as well as you ought to. So come see us at Hearing Connection. We can help. Give us a call today for that free comprehensive evaluation.
Happy Take and Bake Tuesday!
Every Tuesday at Papa Murphy's, you can get large pizzas for just $12, which makes Tuesday the best day to bring home all your favorites.
We might have too many favorites.
Order now at papamurphys.com.
Get alerted to the news when it happens with the Local News 8 app.
Can you tell me where your kids are? Where are your kids? No comment? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
Who can forget this moment? East Idaho News reporter Nate Eaton tracking down Lori and Chad Daybell in Hawaii. That video swept the nation, topping headlines across networks.
The couple was married in Hawaii, and that's where Lori was later arrested. It was moments after that interview when police seized a black SUV driven by the couple. This video was taken at the Kauai Beach Resort. Law enforcement also asking Lori to produce the children to prove they are indeed okay. This is a moment in time that will never be forgotten by reporter Nate Eaton. Now, Eaton says that before going to Hawaii, they received a tip. They watched the couple being taken and put into a separate police car, each one of them. They were not arrested that day, which gave Eaton the opportunity to interview them.